Well, good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing, Friday, August 23rd, 2024. A lot of 20s recently in these videos, but almost into September, so hopefully that won't be an issue. But another lovely day here in the Macedon Ranges. Beautiful Friday morning. Neil's pretty happy. He's just in the leaves at the moment, looking to see what he can get up to there. Tszyu versus Zerafa. We enter day number 3 in the feud of the two parties. Well, is it a feud? Probably not. But I tell you what, no limit, main event, whoever it is, the powers that be, Team Zerafa, of course, are doing a great job in having us all still talk about the feud between the two. Seems to be a little bit one way, if I'm being honest. From just looking at the interviews from Tim and most recently Nikita, I don't think it runs both ways. Michael's still obviously having plenty to say on his socials. I did see another interview he did yesterday. I'm not quite sure who it was with. I think he just did it in his car, but he was making some points about his opinions, his comments that he's made recently about Tim. So I think the main thing that gets under his goat is that this perception that everyone's scared of Tim, and I think that really irritates Michael probably the most out of anything. And look, to some extent he's right. The thing is, at this level, what he's right about is that at this level, elite fighters aren't scared of other elite fighters. They're not. They make business decisions. So, yeah, there might be a little bit of reservation about, all right, yep, maybe not the ideal opponent, but, you know, that's the opponent that makes sense. Then, you know, there might be some apprehension there. But the powers, they've got to remember, these are world-class fighters. They're fighting for lots of money, for titles and all that sort of stuff. So why they might prefer not to fight certain fighters, most of the time they do because of the money and titles that are at stake. So I agree with Michael that I don't subscribe to the whole fighters have been pulling out with Tim because they're scared of him. I've got a feel, especially in the case of most recently the likes of Erickson Lubin, I think he's definitely been advised by the powers that be behind the scenes not to take this fight for business reasons. For Tim, they might want to, maybe it's the PBC versus Turki Al Sheikh versus whoever else, and maybe that's the reason why. But again, it's just business reasons involved. So I do agree with him on that. And I think he said he had a lot of fighters and trainers and managers from all over the world message him. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But as I said, I do somewhat agree with him that about the fighters not being scared. But I think he did actually mention that, according to Michael, that Tim had said that Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford were running from him. I don't think I've actually heard that. If I'm wrong, then let me know. But I haven't actually heard Tim or anyone else from the team even. I think they mentioned they'd like to fight, obviously, especially Terence Crawford, but maybe even potentially Canelo Alvarez. But I've never actually seen or heard Tim Tszyu or Team Tszyu, for that matter, ever say anything along those lines that Canelo Alvarez was scared of fighting Tim. But look, it makes a good storyline. Here we are, 3 days later, I'm still talking about it. A lot of other social media sites are talking about it. The fans are talking about it. So whether it's Michael Zerafa, whether it's No Limit, maybe, actually it's not No Limit. I think they did actually, or one of the guys, whether it be Matt or George Rose, I think in an interview did say that there was not much hope of that happening, the Tim and Michael fight I'm talking about. But maybe it's main event, who knows? Maybe it's just with the Nikita Tszyu and Mazudia fight next week, maybe they're just putting every single little bit of newsworthy comments or whatever it might be in the promos to get people talking about Nikita's fight next week and tune in, because of course Michael's on the undercard. And look, that probably makes the most sense when you think about it, doesn't it? And the promos, I must say, with main event, by the way, are getting really, really good. The last few they've done, especially featuring Nikita in the Jedi robe or whatever he wears, or the Grim Reaper robe. But yeah, I think they've done a really good job just with the promo videos. I think the Sam Goodman one was good as well. They did the casino thing, putting it all on the line. I didn't mind that, but in this instance, I think they're all doing a great job as far as just injecting Michael in there. Because let's face it, no one really has a lot of interest in Michael's fight with Tommy Brown. And this is a great way to maybe deflect from that fight and just focus on Michael himself. So it's a really good move by all involved. It's a little bit of marketing genius where, as I said, we're all talking about Tszyu, Zerafa, whatever Tszyu team member it is, against Zerafa. And yeah, as I said, it's all over social media, all over fan forums. So yeah, as I said, it has taken away from the Zerafa Brown fight in itself, and more focused on the Michael Zerafa factor in it. So yeah, really, really good from all round. I think looking at the interview too from Nikita Tszyu, I mean, he is a little bit out there on Nikita, but it's interesting that he pretty much laughed it off and hadn't really given it much thought. And that's probably right, to be fair. Nikita looks like the type of guy who would just say, he would just train. He'd have Glenn and he'd have No Limit in his ear, and they would say, all right, you're fighting this guy on this date, make sure you're ready, let's go. And he would just train and just get into it. That's the type of guy he seems to be. So I don't think he's really buying into the whole feud sort of thing. As I said, you look at him, he almost laughs it off and shrugs his shoulders and says, oh, well, I'll just fight whoever, I don't really care. So, and the thing with the Nikita Michael Zerafa fight as well, what we've also got to remember, I mean, a lot of people are getting excited about the potential fight, and I get that. I think for a lot of reasons. Nikita, like Tim, is very, very popular, and unfortunately Michael, for whatever reasons it is, isn't the most liked. But that's a different conversation. But we've got also to remember that Nikita, what's he had, 10 fights? Well, I might be wrong, but around 10 fights. I think Michael's had, what, 36, 37 fights. So the timing for me, I don't think is right for that fight at all, even within the next sort of 12 months. I would think that, and even having conversations with Glenn Jennings about this, that it's all the timeline for Nikita. They don't want to push him or be pushed by the public or promoters, or whatever it might be, to fast track him. Was he 26, 27? And I know that's not particularly young, but in his career, only having 10 fights, that is quite young, especially after the 8-year layoff. So this is another thing we've got to factor in. As a Michael Zerafa is a 32-year-old seasoned pro, 36, 37 fights, whatever it's been. Nikita is a 26-year-old relatively novice with only 10 fights under his belt. So I just don't think I enjoy all the banter, by the way, between all the parties, but when you really break it down into what it is, it's a seasoned pro with 37 fights up against a relatively novice with 10 fights. So I'm not quite sure whether that is a fight that I think Glenn Jennings would allow. And even looking at Glenn Jennings's social media accounts, he's pretty much dismissed the whole Michael Zerafa situation anyway. But either way, congratulations to all involved, because here we are still talking about it. And instead of probably getting stuck into someone like Michael Zerafa for his choice of opponents, not that it was his choice, by the way. This is another thing we've got to remember with Michael. I don't think if he had sat down and for his comeback fight on the big No Limit pay-per-view show would have said, get me Tommy Brown. I think that's a little bit unfair for Michael. I think he has copped it from a lot of people. But I think in this situation, that's been No Limit that have said, this is the opponent you're fighting. And he's like, okay, well, whatever, I'll just do what I've got to do. So a little bit unusual that I'm actually sticking up for Michael Zerafa, but I think you've got to look at both sides. So anyway, on some other news, I was just sort of going through the schedule. Of course, we had the Riyadh season card yesterday. So hang on a sec there. Better get my phone out. And looking at the fights, well, looking at what we've had for 2024 so far, and some of the fights we've had, but also some of the fights coming up. And I was just sort of going through it. I mean, it's been a great year for boxing. I'll just quickly scroll through some of the ones we've had, and sometimes I think we forget just how good we've got it as boxing fans. I know we complain a lot about, or focus a lot on the fights we're not getting, But I think sometimes we have to focus more on the fights that we are getting. I mean, we look back to early in the year, we had Arta Beterbiev, Callum Smith, not the biggest fight of all time, but still a quality fight. We've had, I'm just sort of going through there, Teofimo Lopez over Jermaine Ortiz. We've had the Japanese fights, Nakatani, Inoue, Tanaka on the Japanese shows over there. We won't worry about Jake Paul. The Riyadh cards, Joshua over Ngannou, Joseph Parker over Zili Zhang, Vargas and Ball with the draw, Madrimov over Kurbanov in that card back then. I'm just sort of quickly scrolling through these, by the way, guys. Then the dreaded show for us, or weekend for us, back in late March, when we had Tim Tszyu getting beaten by Sebastian Fundora. We had Liam Wilson being beaten by Oscar Valdez, but on that card, you know, Pitbull Cruz over Roller Romero. Yeah, it was a great card. So we'll keep scrolling through there. Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, what a fight that was. Canelo Munguia, that was actually a pretty good fight, I think. I know Canelo obviously got it done in the end, but great fight it was. In a way, Neary was a good fight. Lomachenko, George Kambosos, of course, in May was a ripper fight. Then we had the other, of course, probably the biggest fight of the year, Usyk and Fury. Jai Opetaia on the undercard against Marius Briedis. Good undercard with that as well. So I'm just quickly just sort of going through there. We had the other, in June, we had the Bivol and Zinad fight, but we had Wilder Zhang on the undercard, Daniel Dubois, Filip Hrgovic on the undercard as well. Great card. Tank Davis, Frank Martin. Liam Paro over Subriel Matias. Forgive me here, guys, I normally have these written out. Lopez over Steve Claggett. Well, let's forget about that one. Bam Rodriguez with the win over Juan Francisco Estrada. It was an epic. Let's not ever speak about Shakur Stevenson and Hartunyan ever again. We're into July, and I think that's about it for now, isn't it? July, let's not ever talk about Jake Paul either. Junto Nakatani with that win over Vincent Astrolabrio. We'll keep going there. What do we got? And that's probably about it, but I'm looking forward more to the fights ahead. That's probably more the focus of what I was sort of getting at. We've had a great year, but look at the fights we've still got to come. Let's have a quick look. And of course, where is it? Key dates. I'll go through it there. All right, so Inoue, TJ Doheny, September the 3rd. Probably not so much a massive fight as such, but more so looking forward to seeing Naoya Inoue again. He is an absolute gun. That is in Tokyo, September 3rd. Then we've got September 14th, the fight I will be at, Canelo Alvarez, Edgar Berlanga. Really looking forward to just the whole event with that one. September 21, Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois. What a fight that will be. That's in London. Then October 12th, Saudi Arabia, Arta Beterbiev, Dimitri Bivol, and of course we went through that card yesterday with Jai and Sky on the undercard. Then you might be looking forward to this, you might not. Arlington, Texas, Cowboys Stadium, November 15, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. And then we finish up in December with Alexander Usyk, Tyson Fury 2. So what are your picks out of those 5 fights? So let's not worry about the Inoue one, but Canelo Berlanga, Joshua Dubois, Bivol Beterbiev, Paul Tyson, and Usyk and Fury. Well, I think obviously it's probably a toss-up between Usyk and Fury 2 and Bivol and Beterbiev. Look, even though I think Bivol Beterbiev will be a great fight, I think as far as just the event itself and what we might expect in the rematch, I think it's got to be Tyson and Usyk 2, or sorry, Usyk Fury 2, whatever way you want to say it. But I just think the event with that, 4 days before Christmas, I'm sure the undercard. I'm not sure whether they've really announced much with that card at the moment. I suppose they're focusing more on the the better beef and bivol undercard. But yeah, I can't wait for that. So I think we did it last year too, just around Christmas as well, and it just really sets the scene for the whole festive season, doesn't it? But for me, it's Usyk and Fury 2 as the event that I'm looking forward to the most. But again, it just underlines just boxing at the moment and how spoiled we are. And I actually didn't mention, by the way, on that fights we've had, we had Crawford and Madrimov a couple of weeks ago as well. So there's that many they mesh into each other, don't they? But I suppose the underlying thing is just how great a year of boxing we've had, and what next year is going to look like as well. You would think with the reality sort of stuff seem to be gathering momentum with each event. We've got the other promoters sort of following suit and really trying to up the ante. And I didn't mention the fights there, of course. We've got Tszyu and Murtazaliev as well to look forward to. So, and of course on the Australian front, Nikita and Mazudia. I'm not quite sure there's anything else domestic. I'm sure they'll think of something in the lead up. There'll be probably another big pay-per-view before the end of the year. So anyway, that's the moral of this story on today's video, is just the year we've had, the year that continues to be. And apologies if I've missed fights. There's that many to go through anyway, and I'm trying to scroll on a phone with an umbrella in my hand. It's not particularly easy. So guys, have a great Friday. I'm sure there'll be plenty again to talk about over the weekend. Seems like every day there's something pops up, and we have something to talk about. But if you have something you want me to discuss on my daily walks, just put it in the chat here or the comments, or message me on the Boxing Deep Dive Instagram page, and we'll have a chat about it. I've had my good mate Matty Thompson actually asked about maybe talking about some of the big fights that I've been to over in Vegas, so maybe I'll roll a few of those out on the journey as well, and just give you a little bit of an insight into what goes on with my trips, and what goes on more particularly with the big fights that I'll go to in Vegas. So guys, again, have a good day, and we will catch you tomorrow.